So here's a fun fact. Mike Judge, the creator of Beavis and Butt-head, had nothing to do with the creation of its spin-off series, Daria. Okay, let's go on with the review. Daria is not just one of my favorite cartoons of all times, but it's also one of my favorite shows of all time. It tells the coming-of-age story of a very intelligent teenager that is still growing as a person. The show centers on Daria, after her family moves from Beavis and Butt-head's town, Highland, to Lawndale. Daria is a character you can write a book about, as the show's writers reveal layer after layer to her. She is very cynical towards almost everything. Sometimes her cynicism is proven right, and other times it's not, and she grows as a person. The writing is very smart that way, I think. She is also a person that stands for her beliefs, like not give in to peer pressure and be comfortable with whom you are. But she was never preachy about it, which is something I really liked. Daria responds to most inconveniences in her life with a sarcastic remark. Sarcasm is one of my favorite kinds of humor, as it's not used to put yourself above anybody else, but to state the stupidity of an idea or a situation. For Daria, I also think it's a coping mechanism, since she really can't change much about her position. As Tommy Lee Jones said in No Country for Old Men, sometimes the only thing we can do is laugh. Despite having a rather rough exterior, Daria is actually a rather sensitive girl. Sure, if some dumb bully insults her, she will not be bothered, but if a friend hurts her, or if she hurts somebody, she can get really distraught, so she's not as robotic as she might appear. Daria rarely smiles, but she isn't depressed. She just doesn't like to smile unless she has a reason for it. Or as she puts it, I'm not miserable, I'm just not like them. I have just scratched the surface of her personality so far. She's that well written. Daria's best friend is Jane Lane. Like Daria, Jane is a cynic, but she's a lot more social and enthusiastic about things than Daria. She's also an accomplished artist, and some of the best episodes showcase the devotion she has for her artwork. Her and Daria's relationship is one of the strongest friendships I ever seen. Not just do they complement each other perfectly, but also how much they need each other. Daria even said once that without Jane to be there, high school would be intolerable. I think their close bond was tested the most when Jane's boyfriend Tom got involved with Daria. This created a fallout between Daria and Jane, but they didn't just get back together because they missed each other. They talked it over first, and then Daria was forgiven. I love how their friendship was strong enough to survive something like that, and how very natural the progress felt. Okay, let's look at some of the side characters, and I do mean some, because if I would go over all of them, we would be here all day. Jake is Daria's cowardly father with severe father issues, and is almost always nervous about something. And Helen is Daria's hard-working mother that cares for Daria but does not approve of her attitude. They both try to be the best parents they can to Daria and her sister despite their shortcomings. Speaking of Daria's sister, her name is Quinn. She is the vain vice president of the school's fashion club. Even if she might appear to be shallow and, well, light-headed, Quinn is just that way because of peer pressure, and she really can be just as smart as Daria, if she only puts her mind to it, that is. She's a likable character, and just like Daria, she has her own character arc throughout the series. Jane comes from a very large family, but the one that stands her the closest is her brother Trent, that just like her is a talented artist. For him, it's writing and performing music. He is rather lazy and not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed, but he is smart in his own special way. He's good at reading people's emotions, and like Daria and Jane, he lives life by his own principles. Daria and Trent was in love with each other during the first 3 seasons of the show, but they decided that they were too different for a serious relationship to work. Daria's teachers are also very interesting characters. Actually, second to Daria and Jane, my favorite character in the show is Anthony DiMartino, the school's history teacher. He is always mad about his rotten role in life, had to grow up with a neglectful mother, and now has to deal with dumbass students. The brilliance of his character is how much comedy that comes out of his misery. He screams at least one word in every sentence, and when he gets mad, which is always, his eyeball gets like twice the size. It's really freaking funny. Then there is Daria's English teacher, Timothy O'Neill, a really sensitive guy that is too nice for his own good. He really does care about his students' feelings, but he is just too emotional himself to do any good. Even if Timothy and Anthony are complete opposites, they truly are best friends. Angela Lee is the corrupt principal of Lawndale High. She is obsessed about money and school pride, but she really just has lost her ways. Two of Daria's classmates, Brittany and Kevin, sort of works as substitutes for Beavis and Butt-heads by being complete idiots, but they are not inhuman. They have feelings and traits just like anybody else. I'm just saying they sort of occupy the same role that Beavis and Butt-heads did, just with a romantic spin on it, which I think is rather smart. I guess the best way to tell you how great the writing for this show is probably to analyze some of my favorite episodes. In the episode Through a Lens Darkly, Daria gets lenses out of convenience, and for once people treat her normal. When she later gets annoyed with the lenses, she goes to school without them or the glasses. When Jane calls her on it, she feels that she has betrayed her ideals. Then Brittany, arguably the dumbest girl at school, says one of the smartest things ever. We are just human or whatever. This episode showed not just how hard it can be to stand for your ideals, but also that Daria is a flawed human being like anyone else. In the episode The Misery Chick, a real jerk named Tommy dies at Daria's school, and nobody knows what to think about it. Everybody seems to deal with it differently, but the one constant seems to be that they all come to Daria for advice, because they think she is, well, miserable. Daria found this annoying since she isn't miserable. I really like how this episode is basically a tribute to people who is judged daily by their exterior, rather how they actually feel, while also showing what a lot of schools go through when an incident like this happens. The episode The New Kid had a similar theme when Daria meets a boy named Ted that is even stranger than her, and she finds it hard to keep up with him. In the episode Gifted, Daria bonds with a girl named Judy on a visit to a school for high-achieving students. As they bond, Daria gives us an insight into her own philosophy. When Judy says that Daria's negative attitude is self-defeating, Daria very promptly responds, "Maybe I do miss out on stuff, but this attitude is what works for me now." I think that's true for so many of us. Our attitudes can be self-defeating, but for a lot of us, it's also the best we have. The series also tackled social issues as well. In the episode Fizzed, Lawndale High becomes the sponsor for a new soda brand in order to get in more money, and Daria is the only one that seems to take issue with it. Why? Because for her, it's not the place of a public institute like a school to advertise a product. It's an interesting subject matter that is not easily resolved. It's also the episode where Miss Lee seemed the most human, and I really like that. In the episodes This Year's Model and Too Cute, the show makes a great comment on how various professions exploit young girls' naivete and insecurities, and they did it in a very non-preachy way. Another one of my favorites is Art and Crafts. Jane and Daria enters a student art competition with a poster, but since the poster's message are seen as negative, it is distorted by Miss Lee. So in order to save their artwork's integrity, they had to destroy it. Yes, if only Hollywood had that kind of integrity. Then there are episodes that are just plain fun, like Anti-Social Climbers, in where Daria's entire class is trapped in a snowstorm, and of course they are all keeping character even when they might die. They also made 2 movies. The first was Is It Fall Yet, that capped off the 4th season. This is the one that shows the fallout between Daria and Jane, and I just loved it. You really feel how much they miss each other and want things to be as before, but also how hurt Jane is. Daria also get contact with a little boy named Link that is depressed, but she don't know how or if she can help him. I have been in similar situations, so this really hit it home for me. The second one, titled Is It College Yet, was the series final. I will not spoil too much, but I think it was a really nice way to finishing it, with Daria, Jane, Tom, Quinn, and even Jody finishing much of their story arcs. There are many more brilliant episodes and characters I could talk about, but I don't have more time. I guess my only issue with the show was that we never got to see a Daria, Beavis and Butt-head crossover. It would not have been hard to do, and I would have loved to see it. In conclusion, Daria is all worthy of its praise, and it definitely deserves to sit alongside the likes of Seinfeld and The Big Bang Theory as one of the funniest and smartest TV shows of the last 2 decades. Check it out and judge for yourself.